All right, welcome. This is Building a New Reality, the lunch break with Josh and Ted Wachtel, and I'm Josh Wachtel. We're so happy to have you, and we're so happy we're going to be joined by special guest Adam Cronkright in a bit. And I'm going to kick this off the way I have, but let me invite you as you're streaming in just to chat your location in the world. Where in the world are you? And if you want to say anything about your work and how it's relevant to what we're talking about here, you may do that too. Feel free throughout this time to use the chat to connect with people and share resources and things that you're thinking about. Let's see. Is everybody? And also make sure you chat to everyone. The default is always host and panelists. Yeah, Lee you just demonstrated that. You got to redo that, Lee. But good to see you, and good to see you, Tina, as well. All right, so people are coming in. We got a lot of people on the call. Lovely. All right, well, I'm going to start as I've been with a song. This is an old song, but this version is hot off the presses just this morning. I had to rewrite it because it got a little bit out of date. It's, I meant to look, my friend, my musical colleague. I've never met this friend. Olson, David Olney. I think it's David Olney, if I'm not mistaken. I think he did this at Kerrville a few decades ago. But this is my new version today. Just a dog. I get up just about every day. I pick up my phone, see what the phone might say. Wherever I click, I see the news, give myself a bad case of the blues. Trying to figure how I could help out, and my mind will be reeling, thinking about it all. Me, I'm just a dog, living in a hollow log. They say yet another got killed in the street today. When they go like that, I wonder, do they go quick that way? I think of all the people, the children in fear, and the lives washed away in their mother's tears. Looks like ICE just took another soul. Administration says it's all under control. But me, I'm just a dog, living in a hollow log. The extended forecast is for sunny skies in the east, with a threat of blizzard snows in the west. But at least we know it'll be sunny for the weekend. We'll worry about Monday when Monday begins, 'cause there's a Monday in Paris and Rome, and there's a Monday in Newark and Nome, there's a Monday in Minneapolis and St. Paul, there's a Monday everywhere if there's a Monday at all. Me, I'm just a dog, living in a hollow log. I get up just about every day. I pick up my phone and get my first news of the day. Everywhere I look, it seems so grim. Them hating us, hating her, and hating him. Trying to figure how I could help out, and my mind will be reeling, thinking about it all. What can you do when you're a dog, living in a hollow log? Oh me, I'm just a dog, living in a hollow log. Me, I'm just a dog, living in a hollow log. All right, just a dog. Well, if you're just joining us, I'm Josh Wachtel, Communications Director for Building a New Reality. And at this point, I'd like to invite Ted to turn his video on and join me and all of you folks. You there, Ted? Let's see. Oh, there we go. And you're muted, of course. There we go. All right. How are you doing today, Mr. Wachtel?
I'm doing pretty well, Mr. Rocktel. I'm
And I
excited.
didn't say where I was. I'm here in Cummington, Massachusetts. And I got to read all these. I couldn't read them because I was singing. Wow, we got Italy, we got Hungary, we got Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, Dane County, Madison, Wisconsin, too. Germany, wonderful. Oh my gosh, my heart is so warmed. We got people from Philly, Grand Rapids, all around the world. Yay. Welcome. Thanks for being here. And Ted, you typed in yours. You're down there. Oh, you did type yours. All right. You got warmth. What do you got? 80 degrees? What's that?
No, actually, given how cold it is in the north, it's pushed down so that uh,
Uh,
it was like 48 this morning, but actually, which is not that cold, but it's only getting up to 60. And then on Saturday or Sunday, I think it's going down to 31 degrees. So
nice.
freezing in Florida.
Ugh, that's cold. Yeah, well, but we've got even colder, and we had half a meter of snow. I'm trying to remember our European friends to talk in the right terms. But we got cold temperatures. All right, well, we didn't come here to talk about the weather. We came here to talk about um, expanding restorative practices for one thing. And today, I know we're focusing on I think it's definitely your passion. I mean, I know
Govern-
you were
Governance, you mean?
governance. Yeah, and I remember, well, you've written a lot about this over the years. And I don't know if was it the intro to the Electronic Congress where you talked about seeing Kennedy's inaugural, no, it wasn't inaugural. Was he
No, I
still on the
actually,
campaign or had he just,
Kennedy showed up in Allentown, Pennsylvania when I was a junior in high school. And that was in October of 1960. And I actually was above him and a few floors above him at the YMCA dumping confetti out of the window. A friend of mine's family were Democratic committee people or something. They pulled me in saw me outside and said, "You want to help dump confetti?" I can't say they were the highest security concerns there. I mean, it was a whole different world, I think, at that moment.
no.
Um, I was really impressed with him. I was an impressionable young teenager. I was 14. And then I actually bought an LP of his inaugural address.
You
And,
are a nerd. Really? Wow.
but honestly, when he said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, what you can do for your country," it became sort of a life mission.
Yeah. 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 Well, you were political science major, but
I switched over to history toward the end. When I figured out, I thought I wanted to be a politician until I realized what you had to do.
well,
I
that's
couldn't be
it.
a politician.
That's
So
it.
I'm interested deeply in the whole idea of governance and how we can make it work better. My quest.
My kids are always saying, "Well, who do you think is the best president, Dad?" I'm like, "They're all terrible. That don't look at it that way. I mean, we have to make them do the things, I think. And I mean, that's what we're feeling more. There's a sensibility, a sense of the people. We say the people, and I know people criticize, is it the will of the people? But we know when we get people together to talk about stuff, they come up with different ideas.
Well, we don't have a forum for ascertaining what the will of the people is. That's thoughtful and you have conversation and even argument that's not over the top fighting. I mean, you can make points. And that's, what Adam Cronkright has been working toward, along with others, on the whole idea of citizens' assemblies and ways in which you bring together ordinary people selected by lottery. And that, for me, has the greatest hope. And I was with somebody last night, at dinner, and she was dismissive of it. And I
Yeah.
said, come on. I said,
Well,
but we have ways that you'll learn about it. Hang on.
yeah.
To her.
Dismissive of the
Well, that it would
idea.
work. No, well, I think what Adam's working on right now, and what I think he succeeded in doing, is giving us an example of something where we can actually say, oh, so that's how it would work. Oh, so that's how people would interact. And oh, that's how somebody who had a different point of view could argue that their information should be offered to the whole group. And oh, there were just like, oh, this actually makes sense. So,
Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I don't know. I think we should just bring Adam on. I hope he's there already. I told him 10, 15 minutes. There we go. All right. So, yeah, we've got our guest Adam Cronkright, filmmaker and, well, educator and
deliberative democracy pioneer, I think.
somebody who's really concerned about how we make decisions in society and isn't just concerned, but is doing something about it and has been. We've talked about Adam, your school council, student council project, and hopefully we can get into that at some point. Um,
Adam's not involved with that anymore, but if
yeah,
you just hear a little bit about, why he thought it was important to do for a few years
yeah.
before.
Well, we'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there. And of course, we're going to talk about the film "Goodbye Elections, Hello Democracy," which is, I don't know what do we call it. You're in produ late stages of production, right? And starting to screen it and showing people and for a release on July 4th, a symbolic date for a lot of reasons and of course 250 years this summer. So anyway, Adam, let's tell everybody something about yourself. How did you get involved in this business of wanting to change how we govern ourselves?
First, hello everybody. It's great to be here with you during the lunch hour. And yeah, I got involved in this similar to what Ted said earlier. When I was in high school and through college, my plan was to become a politician. I was going to go into politics and I was going to right all the wrongs and straighten everything that was crooked. And at some point, it kind of broke through my wildly overconfident, naive uh, 21-year-old brain that like it wouldn't be that simple. And I started to become quite interested in systemic alternatives. I got a sense that like the system as it is tends to, um, you know, corrupt folks that go into it, even with the best intentions, and that it really isn't something that centers people and what would be best for people. And so I was looking at what else there could be, and then like a lot of folks in the space, I felt like I stumbled onto the idea of using lotteries to select representatives, as if I was the first person to think of it. Oh my God, I've got it! I got the idea that's going to change the world. And then I run home, and at that time, the fragile ego of a 21-year-old, I was disappointed to see that the Athenians had beat me by about 2,500. Um, and but I was, once I got over that, I was heartened to see that also folks had been resurrecting this, and for decades had been using lotteries to select citizens' juries, citizens' assemblies, citizens' panels, and the like, and that there was a serious field of practice going on, and so that's how I got into it initially.
Yeah. So when you had that idea, you cared, you knew it was a thing, what was the next thing you did? I mean, how long did it take to brew on it until you found any kind of outlet for it?
It like for I think. For me, it was like it is for a lot of folks. Like when I had the idea, when I came across the idea, stumbled on it. For me, it just like clicked. It just made too much sense.
Hmm.
There's different folks have different reactions. To this. Some folks, they want to believe in it. They've got to see it first and stuff. Some folks just like when they hear about it, it's like, well, why aren't we doing that? And for me, it was like that. And so that immediately kind of changed my grand plans for politics and that type of stuff. And I initially set out continuing on my form that I had had as a student. I set out to write the book that was going to change the world, and I spent 2 years doing a lot of research. Never wrote a word. Uh, but and then eventually, I did interface a bit with actually some of the citizens that were selected in the popular constitutional process in Iceland, of all places,
Huh.
to suggest that, democratic lotteries and different designs around that. And so that was interesting. But then when Occupy Wall Street started up, I had heard about the General Assemblies and they're using consensus and stuff, and I thought, well, maybe there's going to be an openness here to also working with democratic lotteries um, and different kind of paradigms of representation. And so I went down to New York City and down to Zuccotti. I lived in the park for about 5 weeks until the NYPD cleared the park. I was involved in the facilitation working group and co-facilitated a couple of general assemblies, but pretty quickly saw that there wasn't real openness in that space. It was pretty. The General Assembly had become quite sacred after just a few weeks of existence, and nothing was going to touch that. And but while I was there, I met a Bolivian woman who was a water activist, and she was there giving a talk. We stayed in touch, and ended up a year later making it down to Bolivia. That's where I ended up doing work in schools, and so that was kind of my winding path
Yeah, yeah.
into the
Well,
workforce.
tell everybody about that schoolwork. Some people have heard about it. I mean, we have an article, actually, some great articles that you wrote. It's in our restorative community book about it. But I think not everybody knows.
Also on the website, I think,
Yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
I'll look for a link. But if you can just share a little bit about how does that work? How did that work in the schools you worked in, and what was the impact of that on kids and everybody?
So originally we're looking at myself and a few folks in Bolivia. We were looking at, okay, where might there be some inroads for this? We were looking at civil society organizations. Their leadership tends to be elected. There's a lot of civil society organizations in Bolivia, and there's big problems with corruption and distrust um, and factionalism amongst families and the types of things that democratic lotteries are kind of designed to prevent. And so we were talking with some different civil society organizations, and um, it was kind of tough to get the elected ruling families to agree to that type of a change. But we saw schools as an inroad. Um, a peer of mine was already doing a lot of work in schools here in Bolivia, a Bolivian colleague, and so we approached different schools and talked about changing it up so that we could democratize leadership education and civic education. Because oftentimes, in Bolivia, I know in my public school in the US, um, you know, leadership, civic education is just kind of left to student council, where it's questionable whether or not it even happens there, or whether or not it's just kind of something to add to a college application CV. Um, and and so one, it's not taken advantage of as a space for learning. Oftentimes, there's not a lot of support for student council. There's not a lot of teaching around that. But two, it's often exclusive to who can win the popularity contest, which seems to like violate not just ideals around democracy, but also around education and equality in education. And so it felt like a perfect place to start. And so we approached these schools, and there was a real openness to this, and so we worked in schools. We replaced the elected student governments, which had kind of only existed formally. There was an election, and then nothing would happen afterwards, and then next year there'd be another kind of popularity contest. And so we had lotteries, and immediately the participation just like skyrocketed. We had schools where literally every single student entered the lottery every single time we had a lottery. We typically do, we experimented with different lengths, but we typically do semester long terms so that you could have more rotation. And then in the student government, um, they would rotate roles. So they would rotate running meetings, setting agendas, taking notes. They would rotate speaking in front of the school every single Monday morning at the school.
Rotate or lottery? Rotate or draw lottery?
So there was a lottery to be in the student government. And then
Oh,
once you're in the student government, every single student would take a turn, right? And we would often randomize the order and stuff. And then we'd be there supporting them and developing their skills as a team, their individual skills, speaking skills, and then they would work on like real things. And so we had at schools, there's some schools that didn't have a lot of library, and they actually were able to get the books, the computer, everything to open up a lottery, staff it themselves, reforestation projects on school grounds, stuff like that. And so we did that for about 6 years across 6 different schools. The students really loved it. And what you saw oftentimes was that a lot of times the students you would least expect, who would never have a chance in a student election, they might be new in the school, shy, etc. Maybe not strong academically. They oftentimes in that setting, working on real things, really blossomed. Um, and then sometimes the students who would definitely be the ones who would win a student election, they had the charisma, they had the popularity and stuff. Oftentimes would start out really strong, but then eventually kind of wear their welcome thin with their peers because they wouldn't follow through with things and kind of work as part of a team. And so it was a fascinating experience for us. And successful, other than the fact that due to some of the structural limitations of schools in Bolivia, we weren't able to scale it beyond our presence because there was no one really to take over the support for the student governments.
Yeah,
And eventually, I wanted to move back to the U.S. and focus in on politics, and so
yeah.
that's when that
Yeah,
wind.
there was a podcast though. Was that associated with your group about the free school in New York, or Democratic school thinking about doing it, and the kids were like, I don't know.
Yeah, there was our work was featured on an episode of Malcolm Gladwell's revisionist history podcast. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that
And
was
so you can find that. It's called the Powerball Revolution. If you search for that, it's pretty fun. And the one correction I would make to Malcolm Gladwell's record is that we didn't have presidents in the student council. We don't advocate for using lotteries to select individual positions like that.
yeah.
But otherwise, he told the story pretty well.
Yeah. But what I remember is that the kids weren't sure about it. Am I remembering that
Oh,
right?
I mean, yeah, and that was an elite school,
Yeah.
and we were in public school. So sometimes, but we
Yeah.
would go into school. We would start with the students, and we'd have debates, and okay, what do you guys want? Do you want to continue on with it?
Okay.
And it was pretty clear that most of the students, you know, they had some of the same complaints, very similar complaints to what we often have about elections. They make all sorts of promises and they don't do anything. It's a popularity contest, like who really cares? All this type of stuff. Um, and so yeah, I see
Yeah.
Richard is asking if Democracy in Practice is still active. The website is still active, but it's been several years since it actually kind of all wrapped up right around 2019 was the last year we were working in schools. COVID hit in 2020, and Bolivia actually shut down school nationwide for a year, so that there wasn't a disparity between students who could do online and who couldn't. And it was right around the time that I was bringing my focus back to the
Yeah.
U.S. and to
Yeah.
politics.
Well, I know how that feels.
Now, you can find Democracy in Practice, the name of the organization that we worked as. And so if you go to democracyinpractice.org, you can find resources there, videos of the students explaining how they do lotteries, how they do different things. And there have been I have heard from folks in different parts of the world, in the US, Thailand, Europe, and stuff that have replicated this in schools. I don't have an exhaustive list of where it's been kind of caught on, and there has been some use of democratic lotteries in universities now as well.
Mhm.
So,
Okay.
Richard Brown is giving the old website a testimonial for being great resources. So
Yeah, yeah. And Lee Rush is asking if you know of any U.S. schools that are doing what he's calling the Bolivia method.
I don't. I have gotten emails from U.S. educators who said that they were going to do it, or wanted
Right.
to do it, and that, and then I often don't. Of course, I
Yeah.
don't reliably check that email, so there's, I don't
Yeah.
follow up as I can, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I've been sort of hope I'm not quite in the right setting for that. I'm in a pretty small setting, so everybody where I teach has a say. So we haven't quite found an application for lotteries. But I've been wondering if any restorative practitioner who's a history teacher or student council, organizer might not take this up and start doing it because it just seemed like such a great project to me.
maybe we should republish on our website
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
also his articles.
Or his article. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or maybe do an event around that. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But anyway, back to the point. Okay, so I think we're kind of coming up to the current moment where um, you saw an opportunity. I don't know how it came about, but share whatever you want in terms of the pandemic's here, gonna do something. Why not film in a state where the pandemic has really churned up, and a swing state where, it's a balance of differences in this kind of charged political climate also. So how did you get going with that to do it and tell people
Yeah.
about what it is? Yeah.
Well, Josh, you introduced me as a filmmaker. I think that's a generous term. We kind of fell into this. I'm not a filmmaker by trade. Um, but basically,
Wait a minute.
when
You
I
have a film coming out. You're a
I
film.
know. Hey,
fair enough
school of
that
the school of life. We learn these things.
um, when I started turning my attention back to the U.S. and to politics in around 2018, 2019. Um, One of the things that kind of stuck out to me in terms of the broader space of folks working with citizens assemblies, folks, advocating that we get beyond elections, et cetera, was a real struggle on the communications front, the messaging, the narrative front, and a real lack of storytelling, particularly like emotional, personal, relatable storytelling. And so oftentimes, some really great work, inspiring citizens assemblies with inspiring citizens is shared in oftentimes very precise and dry ways. 120 citizens, like kind of faceless, nameless, came to agreement, et cetera, et cetera. So that's where I wanted to focus my energies after having worked as a practitioner. Um, and I ended up meeting and teaming up with a guy named George Sisiadis, who came out of the public art and also kind of marketing. And he was new to the space, but also seeing kind of some of the same challenges and gaps. And so we teamed up and we started an organization called Of by For. And and we were looking for, okay, we want to do basically a citizens assembly process, and we want to do it in a way in which we can then share the story of that, and get people thinking not just about citizens assemblies, but actually thinking beyond elections more broadly. And so the potential for democratic lotteries to be a legitimate challenger to elections in terms of how we distribute power in a society, and what does a democratic society look like. And so we set out, and initially we thought, okay, we're going to do a citizens assembly nationwide in person, and we're going to film it. We're going to have a feature-length film, and then COVID hit, and so we thought, man, well, we can't do anything now. Nobody's going to want to watch a bunch of Zoom footage.
Mm.
Uh, Luckily for us, that's kind of the way that it worked out because we had not actually, neither one of us had actually worked on an actual citizens assembly process, and so we thought, well, maybe we'll take this opportunity to do something smaller, do something statewide. You know, still nobody's going to watch a bunch of Zoom footage, but at least we'll get our feet wet in this realm. And maybe we'll do a short retrospective video on it afterwards. We'll send some filmmakers out to interview people. It was a last minute decision to spend some money we didn't have at the time to buy a bunch of camera equipment and to send it out to folks and remotely help them to set
So
up.
each person had a camera on their computer.
So we did, this was September 2020. We did a lottery. It was the first time, to my knowledge, in the field that we did a lottery where it was like live streamed and it was Powerball style. And so a lot of symbolism. Oftentimes the lottery selection for citizens assemblies is some team member in a back room just running a random algorithm on an Excel spreadsheet. And we decided, lotteries, if they're going to be a challenger to elections, they need to have the same types of symbolism and ritual. Um, and so we did that in September of 2020. We selected 30 folks from across the state of Michigan, which Josh, you mentioned was one of the most divided. There was actually an armed storming of the Michigan State Capitol in April of 2020 about COVID. And so it was arguably the most divided state on the topic of the lockdowns and the pandemic, um, and quite reflective of the rest of the country in terms of political leanings and demographics. And so we thought, hey, here's an opportunity to go into the belly of the beast here in terms of division, in terms of a challenging issue. And so we had this citizens panel of 30 folks selected by lottery. Um, it had to be remote because of COVID, so we sent people the camera equipment, and it recorded locally, but it also passed through and served as their webcam, and so they got quite used to it. George, my co-founder there, he had the idea last minute to have them do personal video journals after each session. There was 23 sessions, and so there's some really
Brilliant.
just really powerful and intimate moments captured there. And through the process, and this was all going on during the fall of 2020, so you had the elections going on. Um, Very charged and divisive time, uncertain time for people, and that's the backdrop. And so when we were watching what was happening and the people in the citizens panel and what they accomplished and stuff, and then the footage started to come back, we realized that like, oh, we're not going to be making just a 10-minute retrospective promo video that we have the makings here of a full film. It took us a while to figure out then how to make a feature-length film, and it's been a winding journey since, but it feels like it's finally fallen into place.
So you've been showing the film. I know you were overseas in the fall. What are people, what's happening when you show this film?
I mean, without biasing the experience of any folks here with us today, if when they watch it, I think that most folks are finding it quite moving and hopeful. And we've done a lot of, so we've been starting to share the film with folks in different groups, kind of pre-screenings of the current draft that we have. Um, and that's been really encouraging. And but also in the past we've done test screening with groups of everyday folks selected from across the country. We use the same lottery process basically to make sure that these groups were representative of the country, demographics and political leanings and stuff. Um, and so it's been really cool to see the resonance from everyday folks from all walks of life. And we have a short video too that kind of pieces together people's reactions, and you can see if they're conservative, liberal, or moderate, and just how much this resonates across the political spectrum.
Yeah, if I may interject, in my limited experience of showing the film to people, I've gotten the funniest reactions like, geez, Ted, I didn't know it was going to be that good. Honestly, because, oh, Ted's going to show us a film. Oh, and I mean, getting people to watch an 80-minute film sometimes, unless you've organized an event, but just say, here, watch it till they watch it. But then almost always I get a reaction like that, like, wow, it was amazing,
Yeah.
So I think you're onto something. I really do.
Yeah. Well, my wife and I, she got through the whole thing. I didn't know if I mean, she's interested in governance, but I didn't know. But that was the first. We both really enjoyed the film, and I've sent it to some folks, and one of my friends just on the other side of the valley, they're gathering some of their friends, to show more people. So that's what we're hoping, that as this film rolls out, that our community here, gets excited about the film and does want to share it, because I think it's the kind of film, that you want to show with a group. You want to show with some people who are gonna,
Yeah.
actually say, all right, because I, you know. Well, we went to the IIRP International Conference, World Conference, in the fall in Chattanooga, Tennessee, about restorative practices, and we presented on other things and this stuff as well, and restorative. But one of the themes, they did a lot of arts, and that's partly why I've been starting with music, and because arts really do help. And one of the speakers, professor at Vermont. Restorative justice at Vermont Law College. She was saying that, we have to tell stories because think about it. We have all, she was speaking about restorative justice and restorative practices, but if you don't have the examples, how do kids grow up knowing to expect that we're going to have a better way of making decisions? Now it's all, the stories are elections, and that's what we're used to. So I really do think that your film fills a big gap in how we're able to imagine, and because it's a process, and you have 30 people, there's so many processes out there that could be done, right? They all work in different ways, but you're showing a process, and the emotional impact um, of on these people, especially because of those. Oh, we lost out. Oh, he's coming back.
I'm
Because
still
especially
here. My
because
video just stopped working for some reason. So,
yeah, I noticed you froze there. Well, uh, anyway, I guess the question is, and we'll live without your video for now, if you can, just to keep things going. But what is the question?
Well, for me, the question is, how do you take this very hopeful experience that's,
Yeah.
getting very strong reactions and capitalize on it to give people some action steps to take. So people say, oh, yeah, okay. Now, and people say things like, well, we're never going to be able to change the Constitution. Well, you don't have to. It's not the first thing to do. It's after doing a whole bunch of demonstrations of how groups of people can come together and work through really angry feelings and so forth, but do it in a civilized way and actually come up with solutions where there's been give and take. And that can be done in a whole lot of voluntary settings, and it's already happening around the world. There's many hundreds of these, but I think that's the way to go forward. Only it's getting more real now because the crisis is greater. People sense that democracy by elections is a very messy, power freak business. And it does not attract the best people because people who are into pursuing wealth, power, and control over others are not always the nicest people. Yeah, I always like that famous quote, power tends to corrupt. Uh, Absolute power corrupts absolutely. There's a third sentence in that paragraph. And most great men are really bad men. You
Yeah.
know,
Well, Adam, I think the question actually, oh, there you are. Yay. I
uh,
think the question was sent in by two folks in the audience. How can we get our hands on this film?
yeah. So, Ted and Josh and I, we talked about maybe doing an event, like to pre-screen the current draft that we have of the film. And so that feels like maybe the next place to go is is to organize something like that.
maybe
Yeah.
April, late April, May, something like that.
Yeah, or it could be earlier, it could be March.
Okay.
Like we're continuing to work on the film, but it feels
Yeah.
like it's
Yeah.
generally fallen into place. So we're getting
Yeah.
close to locking the structure,
Okay.
and
Well, we'll discuss that, but
Yeah. An online screening,
we'll
right?
keep it. I mean, frankly, if people want to help, from my point of view, if you get people to sign up for our website, we put out things occasionally, mostly to tell about these events and something like Adam's film will feature. Now, that'll actually merge. We'll do something further about, uh, democratic lotteries. We'll get back our friend from the UK, Brett Hennig, to tell us about the exciting things they're doing. This will probably be later in the spring. Our next thing we're anticipating, by the way, is in more swinging back to restorative justice, for a few weeks, but in February. But we're going to, Josh, have we decided we're continuing with this format? Is that a decision?
I think for the restorative justice sessions, absolutely.
We're
Yeah.
going to
Thanks for being with us, everybody. I mean, this was a total experiment. We didn't know what we were getting into just to do this more kind of talk
do,
show.
just to give people a sense of, there's a number of dozens of people who show up to this, but a lot of people just get, how many people could come at noon on a Wednesday? So we're getting a lot of people requesting the video, and we're up to a couple of hundred people now for this series. So we'll do another series and probably start doing the same format because it's more informal. Josh helps me one day a week. I'm retired. I don't want to work too hard. And so the idea is to get together some interesting topics. We know some really impressive people that, like Adam, are doing some cool things, and we'd just like to get you to meet them.
Yeah. Um, all right. Sorry, I was just looking at the question. You can look at that question, Adam, if you want. But asking about the title. Have you finalized the title? Goodbye elections, hello democracy. I want people to put in their suggestions if they wanted different, but
we're always open to good
Always.
ideas. But we find that so far that title tends to resonate and tends to grab the attention of the folks that we're primarily trying to reach with this, and that we're also trying to signal that this isn't just kind of more of the same types of reform that a lot of folks, particularly folks who I think are legitimately disillusioned and kind of disengaged with the political system.
There's so many people that are disengaged. Some of the smartest people, some of my friends, they just have for years they've just chosen not to vote at all. And it infuriates others because I guess they imagine they would vote the way they want somebody to vote, but it's beyond that, right? I mean,
I mean, I've never voted, and it's for me, it's a principled decision, both related to my disaffection with the system of electoral politics, but
yeah.
also connected to the fact that I do this work, and I think it's important for me to,
Mm.
keep my own political views
Yeah,
in
well,
check.
let me ask you that actually along those lines. Just, I know that a lot of folks in this space have felt that it's easier to attract people from the left, say, and that it's been harder to attract conservatives. And what's your experience on that? Do you have anything to share about that, or why you think it is?
Yeah, I think that that's wrong. I think that's incorrect. And I have experience. I've canvassed across like 10 states. I've talked to close to 400 folks just on doorsteps, different neighborhoods, different parts of the country, um, and all different types of people. We later did national polling with one of the most respected polling firms. And then there's also been, it was either Gallup or Pew who did national polling around citizens assemblies as well. And you see the same things, which is that like it's comically equal support across the political spectrum,
Mm.
whether it's citizens assemblies or whether it's replacing elections with democratic lotteries for, say, legislatures. Um, Conservatives are just as supportive of this as liberals, and the disengaged even more so. And we're talking about two-thirds of Americans, when they hear about this, say that this would be better or much better. Um, and so that's and in other, this is a global space. A lot of the movement on citizens assembly has been done in Europe, and there too, In the UK, it's slightly less support from conservatives than from liberals. In Germany, it's more support from conservatives than liberals for citizens' assemblies. Um, and so that's a it's a myth in the space, and I think that it's one that is kind of self-perpetuating and self-reinforcing because most of the folks in the space, not all, but most of the folks in the space have historically been like left of center or center left, and they have a certain network and they talk a certain way, and so they tend to only connect with, or the way that they talk tends to connect with more folks left of center, and it just becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy. And I think that it's really important in this space that we check that and break out of that because if this gets perceived as some kind of partisan tool to advance one side's agenda, um, then that is going to really that's gonna it's gonna be a real problem for this and going forward. Ted?
Adam, if I can just touch on that. Here in Pennsylvania, there's a growing active network of these Brave Angels, and we're making a special effort. I'm just a member. I don't have any particular role in it, but those of us that are excited about this film see it as a way to attract a lot of conservatives for a conversation that can really help Brave Angels strengthen its attraction to red because, and we're thinking of doing some model discussions, but they do stuff already. But the film, I think, can really be a catalyst for that. And I just wanted to mention, by the way, on somebody's notes, they asked, yeah, the film's going to be distributed for free. Is that correct?
Yeah, we'll be looking at conversations with streaming platforms as well, but it's always been a pretty hard line for us that it needs to be freely available for everyone. Um, and so a lot of questions still on the distribution front, but that one's pretty clear.
How can help? How can people help with the funding because you're not done? And promoting it's going to take some effort. Is there anywhere or any way that people can give you some support?
Yeah, people can donate on our website. I know, Josh, you put our website in the chat. Looks like joinupby4.org. If you want to donate towards the effort, we have to still finish the film, share the film, and try to get it shared as widely as possible. Um, and uh, and so, yeah, we definitely need support on that front. And then also sharing the film is a big way in which people can support when that's ready, obviously. And, as we get closer to July, the kind of ramp up to the official release, there'll be opportunities for folks like in this group who have already been in the know to be able to share a pre-release version prior and just kind of get things revved up for
Hopefully,
when.
we'll be one of the networks, so we'll let people know when they can get their hands on it to show to their networks. And networks, we mean not just if you're in an organization, although that's cool, like Democracy Without Elections, one of our, fellow travelers in this business is really a great place to show it. But you can show it to your family network. I mean, people that have been in fights at Thanksgiving should dedicate an hour and 20 minutes next Thanksgiving to watching this
Yeah.
film. You
Yeah,
know,
well, if everybody likes the idea in equal proportions, then I guess we just got to get more people knowing about it.
that's right.
All right. Well, Adam, I want to thank you so much for taking your time to come on and talk to us. And of course, we'll be hearing more from you, and so will everybody else. So I'm gonna.
Thank you for having me,
Oh yeah.
and pleasure to be here with everybody. And look
Thank
forward to the next time.
All
you.
right. So will we. And I'm gonna grab my guitar, which signals we're gonna wind down here. And again, thanks so much for participating in this series, for joining us. You can see the video. We'll be sending that out as always, and we're gonna be look for some emails in late February. We're gonna start another short series with a focus on restorative justice. So, and I'm gonna end with one of the first songs I wrote, as a matter of fact, one of the early songs I wrote anyway. About somebody who's looking forward to something exciting that's going to happen, something very special happening, and what that's like. It's called Mardi Gras. Hey there, Mardi Gras. Remember what you saw. The other night before, when you said you were invited. You were so excited. Hey there, Mardi Gras. Pick it up a little more. Get your feet up off the floor. And then you'll be flying. All the stars are crying. Whoa, hey there, Mardi Gras. Take it out and put it on. Sing the dance of the swan. And then you'll be sailing. All the whales are wailing. Whoa, Mardi Gras. Remember what you saw. The other night before, you said that you were frightened. You were still kinda excited. And though you said you were frightened, that you liked it. All right, folks. Once again, thanks for joining us. We'll catch you another time. Thank you, Adam.